Both in person, like you just said. Episode 2, Ducati Report.
Yeah.
True Strength Life podcast. We're back here. And Mr. Ducati himself, Evan Ducati, is back on the podcast with his show, Ducati Report.
The one and only.
Was that all redundant?
Probably a little bit,
Yeah,
but
probably. It's okay.
they'll still like it.
You don't have to know a lot of things in order to make a huge difference for the Lord in the world. But you do need to know a few things that are great and be willing to live for them and die for them.
Will I let Jesus prove to me that he's truly my strength? To let him prove inside of me that through him I can do all things.
The True Strength Life podcast with Aaron Simpkins.
So, I was thinking today, we'll obviously kind of pick your brain on some things. And one of those things being, I heard New Jersey has some drones.
I heard about that too.
You hear about the drones?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did talk about the drones already on the show.
Yeah.
But just me talking.
Real fans know.
And yeah, the 3 that are out there. So what else do you have going on? Do you want to get into the article you're working on or not yet?
Not yet. Everything's a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's working on some new stuff, but this I'll just say this. His next release on the Ducati Report it's going to be a doozy in a good way.
We'll see if it's the next release.
Okay, yeah.
It's going to be perfect.
It's got to be perfect, and it's going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be big.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Big also in importance.
Yeah. I'm getting unfriended on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's good. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we've worried the people, actually it's funny. We started the show and we didn't even talk beforehand about
No, we're just going for
is
it.
Is there anything that you don't want to / can't talk about?
Yeah.
So, all right, Space Force boy.
Whoa.
What are these drones?
I know nothing about them. I can assure you.
Is his official military stance.
Yeah. DOD endorsed.
So what's up?
For real, though, I don't know anything about them.
You haven't, read anything, looked into anything? Have you seen any?
No, I haven't seen one personally. I've just heard the rumors and stuff.
Has any of your family?
Not that I know of.
Huh. Everybody, well, except Brooke, my wife, we haven't seen any, but everybody else in my family's seen them.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard about them until someone brought them up to me when I came here a couple weekends ago. I was like, what? So,
Wow.
all right.
Yeah, we have drones.
Crazy stuff.
Do you have a gut feeling of what they could be?
Nah.
Could be totally wrong, but just
I just like to let stuff play out when it's goofy like this.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. What if it's something mundane and we're freaking out about it for no reason?
See, it's weird though because it is. I definitely think the concern is legitimate. I mean, you see all these things flying around and nobody's telling you what they are, but they came out of nowhere and they're all flying around your house. You probably could be concerned about that.
I guess.
Yeah, maybe not you.
Yeah, I'm just carefree. Totally.
Yeah, that's okay. So, Christmas just passed. You were there. You were there at Pastor Ron's last sermon, right?
Christmas Eve?
No, not Christmas Eve.
The Nativity one?
Yeah.
I saw the live stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you remember it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that.
That's why I brought up the magazine rack the other day.
I figured. So my pastor did. Shout out Pastor Ron. Our church has a podcast, so you can actually go listen to the sermon that I'm about to bring up. Garden Lake. What was it? Garden Lake
Bible Church.
Garden Lake Bible Church podcast. It should pop up. Apple, Spotify, all that. Garden Lake Bible Church. So this was the sermon he did right before Christmas Eve. His idea was, throughout Christmas time, we, through songs and through movies and shows and stuff, we see all kinds of different nativity scene ideas and things that people put into the nativity scene. And he wanted to talk about, so he had the idea of, he's been a pastor for over 40 years, and he goes, he's like, every Christmas, your people are expecting a sermon on the nativity story and Jesus' birth. And he said, but in reality, in Scripture, there's only actually, I think he said that's what is, but I think it's only 28 verses or 38 verses or something
like that
are actually talk about Jesus' birth specifically. And so the point he was making was, there's only so much you can really deep dive into on specifically the birth of Jesus. And so he said he was thinking to himself, how do I approach this in a way that, not that it's never been done, because obviously it has, but maybe it might be new to him, or maybe he just did it 38 years ago and forgot. But
probably that.
So he's like, you know what? I want to get into a deep dive on the historical context and language of the nativity and culture that they were dealing with, and pair that, see how that pairs with our modern perception of the nativity story. So modern perception, nativity story, you see a stable, you see animals all around, typically Jesus wrapped in some cloth, laying in some straw, and Mary and Joseph next to him, and like I said, animals are all around. They're in a stable. They're the three wise men are right near him usually, and some shepherds all around, and that's kind of the nativity story. Last night I was literally at a house that does a big light show, and they had a big nativity scene, and it literally was all of that. There was some camels, there was some elephants.
Oh,
there
elephants!
Was some,
very nice.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, and then added on to that, when it comes to movies and shows and everything, you always see this visual of like an innkeeper, open up a little window and they ask for a room, and he goes, nothing here.
No,
he shuts them out.
Shut up.
Yeah, go away. And so so Pastor Ron was taking all that, considering all of that, the modern telling, and was saying, all right, what is actually in the Bible, and what can we say is scripturally based, and what is just either nonsense or is a big stretch.
What's based?
So yeah, that. So it was really cool, and I definitely did learn some stuff that I didn't know going into it. So I'll let you start. What was something that stuck out to you?
Like my takeaways?
Yeah, sure.
For the most part, I knew going into it that the typical nativity scene was like fake news.
Yeah,
but I learned a lot of new stuff. I just knew broadly that the magazine rack thing wasn't true.
Yeah. Hey, look, the screensaver turned on.
Yo.
That'll
Very
work
cool.
too. Sweet.
Get a load of this.
Anyway.
But yeah, that's all I got.
So, fake news.
Yeah.
Fake news.
Of course.
What was the one? The one I definitely knew going into it was that the wise men were not present at Jesus' birth. They actually were like a couple years later, according to the scripture. Mm-hmm. One I didn't actually know going into it, just because I had never really looked into it, was Jesus being born in a manger, and there was no space in the inn, so he went deeper into that, and talking about how back then they would have been traveling with a lot of people, Mary and Joseph, because there was a census, so there was a lot of people. So and the way back then that houses were set up, they had like the living quarters, they had kind of like a kitchen area, and then within the house they had a room, like a separate spot where like a couple animals would have been, and the animals would have just been in the house at night. Right. So there would have been a feeding trough, which translates to manger. But then there also was, in most houses, even in like single level houses, like down and dirty, kind of poorer people house, there was a separate area which would have been like a guest area. And he said, he broke that all down. And again, I'm kind of butchering this a little bit, so go back to the sermon and listen to it, Garden Lake Bible Church podcast. And basically his takeaway was Jesus was most likely born actually in a house, and he was placed in a feeding trough, which modern day most feeding troughs back then, we even have in archaeology, we've discovered some from that era, and they're basically carved out of stone, and they almost look like a modern day bassinet, which is a little bed that you put an infant in. And
thanks.
Yeah, I figured you didn't know
Yeah.
that. So it actually would have worked out nice to place him in there. And he would have been, most likely, again, he would have been surrounded by a bunch of other people who were all would have been there to, help with the process.
Right.
Also, Mary was possibly, again, we don't specifically know, but it wasn't, again, portrayed in modern view, is like she was given birth, in 5 minutes, because they need a place for her to go right this second.
Which is why it's even more preposterous, the idea that they would have been like turned away.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, biblically, that's not, again, it could have been, but that's not what the Bible says.
Right.
It just says she was with baby, or some translations say she was great with child, I believe it goes. But that doesn't necessarily mean she was given birth in 5 minutes. So she could have showed up and been there for a month. There's some certain details like that we just don't know. And the wise men thing. The wise men had nothing to do with the nativity. They were...
But they look cool in the scene.
They do.
When
you're having a light show,
when you're having
a light show, a couple wise men looking dudes, they look pretty cool. But they weren't there. Again, scripturally speaking, they came when a couple years later, when he was a toddler. And wise men from the east, from the line of Daniel as the head of the wise men from Babylon, all very interesting. Again, another sermon that was preached, I believe...
The week before?
No. A week or two before the one we're talking about. Pastor Dave Sullivan did that one. Again, go on the podcast, Garden Lake Bible Church podcast. Check that out. That was really cool too. Talking about Daniel and then the wise men in the nativity story.
Yes. That
was fascinating to me. So it's just really interesting. Like, why do we do that? Even as Christians and even as like churches, putting up a nativity scene. Like, why do we often do very biblically inaccurate things?
Well,
like have wise men.
I think there's a book about why people do things like that. It's like, well, it's a collection of books. I think it's like 66.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there. I
guess it depends.
I don't recall.
Depends on where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Historically speaking.
I guess.
So, how was your Christmas?
I had a fun time. Saw some family. That's about it. Got some gifts.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
I heard you gave out something that was good.
Did I? Well, does it start with B and end in Arian Study Bible?
Yes.
So I gave my little brother the BSB. I don't know if the audience is familiar. You've probably talked about it before.
Oh, I've talked about it a ton.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in our like rebranding recently, but
Okay.
yes, you can talk about it.
Yeah. So it's a
I'm
modern.
trying to get them to get me to be an affiliate or something, but
I mean, yeah, you've been promoting it for a while now.
yeah.
So Aaron introduced it to me a couple years ago now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much been my primary translation for like Bible study, or if I want to do something for the blog. It's very modern. It's very easy to understand without having to Google a bunch of stuff, which is not the case for some other translations. I'm not going to talk crap, but
Yeah.
I'm here to promote, not degrade. So, yeah.
Oh, speaking of translations, that just reminded me of a point I forgot.
Subtitles?
The when you're looking at different translations of the nativity scene, like I said about he was born in a house, in a guest area of a house, the LSB, Legacy Standard Bible, and the NIV, I believe it was, when I was comparing translations, they translate in as guest room.
Directly?
Yeah. So, thought that's just a little
There you go.
interesting tidbit.
Little tidbit? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Berean Standard Bible. Check them out.
Oh, yeah, it's not study anymore. Used to be
No,
study.
it's not study. Berean Standard, they changed that. I think for the good.
Yeah.
But BereanBibles.com. I'll link them in the show notes, but they've been my go-to for a couple years now. And it all started back when I interviewed Dr. Gary Hill, who was the head coordinator of the translation team. Okay. And because this was started by Bible Hub, the guys at the team at BibleHub.com. And I interviewed Dr. Gary Hill, got a BSB soon after that, or right before that, I think.
That might be the one that I have now.
Maybe. Yeah. And then it was, ever since I've had that. I'm actually going to be interviewing him again sometime soon. Cool. I don't have the specific details on the date yet, but keep an eye out for that. Because there's been a lot of major updates with the BSB. So, I didn't expect to talk about the BSB like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so awesome that it just gets brought up sometimes, I guess.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
So, it's weird. Christmas just like came and went.
Yeah, I was talking to my grandmom about that. It's like, it came up quick and now it's gone just like that. It's very weird.
And she say it's like that every year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting older, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm getting up there.
You're up there. You're an adult teen.
Yeah.
We talked about that the other day, but so basically with Christmas ending, what does that also mean? The year is coming to an end.
Wow.
2024.
Resolutions, am I right?
I'm not there yet.
Oh,
So
yeah, I don't even do them, so.
So, do you have any like
Reflections?
highlights, or don't do's?
I got a new job.
You think a new job?
Yeah.
He works at Chuck E. Cheese,
Yeah,
and
$8.25 an hour. But yeah, I got into the military this year, which it was a goal of mine. Pretty big thing. I spent January through April just like sitting on the couch waiting for my medical stuff to get approved.
yeah,
Took a while, but I made it. Basic training was fun. And I'm loving, I guess, the military life so far. Plus, I'm close to home for a couple more months, which is cool. That's been most of my 2024.
and then you'll be not close at all.
Yeah, I'm Hawaii bound in April.
So
Ducati Report's going to be on Skype or something.
yes, that will be after April. You will be on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Cuts it off.
My face isn't quite the same on the screen, but, you know.
No, it's not really that great anywhere, but...
Next topic.
So, Is that all you got though?
Pretty much.
2024.
Yeah.
I mean, not that like that's like kind of a big deal. Yeah, he went to the military, Space Force, went to the branch that most people still don't even know exists.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool in my opinion, honestly.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
But Space Force Guardian. I'm still not sold on the Guardian.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on a lot of things Space Force related. They're ironing things out still.
Yeah. So, did you read this year?
I did read. I'm not, like we mentioned, we didn't even talk about what we were going to get into before this started. We're just kind of winging it, but I read What's-His-Face's book, the guy...
That narrows it down, actually.
Yeah. The guy that, like, tried to kill his dad with a hammer.
David Wood.
Yeah, David Wood. Hammer time.
He's Hammer Time.
Yeah, that's his rap name. Because he's a rapper now.
Oh, boy.
That was a good one. Some sports books.
What was that? I didn't even know you had a book.
It's like a biography type thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotta read that.
Yeah, it's out there.
Huh.
I'll send it to you.
David Wood, yeah, he's a wild boy.
Yeah.
Great apologist, though.
Yeah, he's been back on YouTube for months now.
I think it's called Apologetics Roadshow. Is this new channel?
Yeah, that's his YouTube page now.
Yeah. If you ever want to know anything about Islam, he's your guy.
Yeah, and he does YouTube with a Muslim, I forget what they call it, like when you leave, apostate.
Yeah.
With a Muslim apostate, he's done like live streams and stuff talking about foreign affairs, mostly Israel, as you could imagine, and that whole geopolitical
There's
situation.
nothing going on over there.
Nah, nothing.
No.
Just a little spat. That's it.
It's a loose spat, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know where to start with that stuff. Like, that's why I haven't really
Another time.
gotten super into
That's
it.
when we can start.
Yeah. No, I mean like just learning, just on my own
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Like historically.
Yeah.
Wise. Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, the Bible's correct. I'll just start there. So, that's a good starting point.
All right.
Yeah. So you read David Wood's book. It's funny. Again, anybody who has listened for a little while knows that I pretty much just do audiobooks. This year was a slower year for me with audiobooks. I do plan on doing another episode very soon, recapping my favorite books from this year. So I'll get more into detail on that. But it's actually been like 2 months probably since I finished a book.
It's a while.
And a lot of that has to do 2 months, probably 2 or 3 months. A lot of that has to do with the election, honestly, because I was just constantly listening to podcasts, and
I feel that.
so my books went like I just basically stopped listening to books, because most of my time was podcasts, and I still, since the election has ended, my political podcast listening has went way down.
Same.
But I still listen to a lot of podcasts. So I have a goal for 2025 to do more books again. I don't want to do what I did a couple years ago where I did like 60 books.
That was the COVID year, right?
I think
Maybe
that was 21 actually.
Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, I did like 60 or 61 books, and that was insane.
At that point, it's like, are you even digesting the content, or are you just trying to read more books?
It was a little.
That's like.
It was a little.
There's
bit
a fine
of,
line.
A little bit of I just wanted to say I finished it. A little bit, but what I will say with that is, because believe me, when I did that, I got the comment from a whole bunch of people. What are you really taking away from that? Well, my thought is, so if I don't finish a book at all, don't start it, don't finish it, I'm getting 0. If I finish a book and I get 5%, then I'm 5% ahead of the game still. So so what is your argument? Is your argument you want me to just not do books at all, or you know what I mean? Like I get it.
I mean, you would have to read it 20 more times to get 100%.
I get it. I get it. There's a better way, but I'm saying in general, I still did get a little bit of each one that I read, and some more than others.
Better than nothing.
Some were more, some were just entertainment, like stories and stuff, and some were heavy. But anyway, that was a couple years ago. I don't even remember what year it was. This year, I think I'm around 10 books.
I might be less than that.
Yeah. But I did get a book for Christmas about St. Patrick, like the actual real St. Patrick. And and that's a physical book. I'm already almost halfway through that.
Okay.
Because it's very interesting. That dude was a G.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because, like, it's like I rediscover that he was a G every St. Patrick's Day. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This guy was cool.
This guy, like, yeah. We're going to talk about St. Patrick's Day and Christmas. But, so, yeah, if you never looked into or never even heard of or never even knew that St. Patrick was a real guy that, like, had a real crazy story, you need to look into it. I suggest the book that I got. It's just called St. Patrick by William J. Federer.
Fetterman.
No. Not Fetterman. There's no stutters in it. Man. See, that was too far. William J. Federer is a very good Christian historian. Does a lot of American history stuff. So some people call him Bill Federer, but he's good. I like him. What else we got? I hung up the Constitution over there. See that? Well, they can't see it, but...
No, they can't. Unfortunate. Looks nice, though. The room's really coming together.
It is. It's pretty nice. The heat is on me right now. It's blazing. I'm mad that I said blazing.
Josh? Shout out.
So what else we got? We hit Christmas, Nativity, hit the drones. What else is happening what's happening in the news? Like I said, I've actually been out of the news a little bit, so
it's been a little quiet post-election.
Yeah.
It's mostly like local stuff. Kash Patel is going to be the FBI director.
That's sweet.
Some libertarians know who he is. Cash Money. We'll see if the cleaning out actually proceeds the way it's been laid out. But it won't be the worst thing in the world with him as FBI director. I know a lot of people in Trump land have been disappointed with the leadership of Chris Wray. They think he's whatever that word is.
A swamp creature.
We could go with that because I'm probably not going to think of it. I think his term's expiring anyway. What is it? Like 8 years for an FBI director? I don't know. But yeah. Hey, Cash Money.
Cash Money. All right, well,
that's a cabinet pick.
So
I know we did cabinet picks last time, but
that was before he was talked about.
Yeah. Another Hindu.
So taking over.
Yeah.
So for people who aren't familiar with Cash a little bit, talk a little bit more about him.
I'm not incredibly familiar with him. He was some kind of ambassador in the first Trump administration. He's a pretty young guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's under 40. Hindu. He's basically just like Vivek.
He seems to be like doesn't play games.
Yeah, I kind of get that vibe from him, and it's a lot of times with these political appointees, it's like, all right, is he just talking the talk? Which is the case most of the time, so we'll see.
I of course, I'm sure, people could say this about any administration. I have a gut feeling, and no, I don't think it's my breakfast.
Everything's gonna be awesome.
I have a gut feeling that that we actually will. I'm not saying they're all going to be. They're not going to. The end result of all the changes are going to be great, because I'm not necessarily saying that, but I do have a gut feeling that there's going to be a lot of changes that happen.
Changes.
Okay. And, yeah. So when somebody like Kash Patel or even Trump comes in and says, or Vivek with Doge and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
like they come in and they say, you know, we're getting rid of all the 3 and 4 letter agencies, right?
Right.
Okay, well, we know that doesn't mean all, because it
Right.
never does.
And I
And-
mean, it might mean none because Doge can't do anything without. I mean,
And-
Doge just can't come in and say, "Yeah, you're all fired."
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not like, you know, making the decision, then it
I'm
happens.
saying legally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a process. So, so again, they all say these things that we love, but it'll just be we have to let time go by to see what actually happens, what actually gets done. You know, I'm all hype about Make America Healthy Again with RFK.
Yeah.
And making changes to our, you know, the health across the nation. What will actually happen though? You know what I mean? Like what is he actually going to be able to change and get done? We have to let time tell
Pass. Yeah.
and see. But I do like from what I've seen, I didn't know this guy Kash Patel before he like was.
I
in all
was
the
vaguely
news.
familiar with him.
Yeah, because he comes from a libertarian camp, right?
Semi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know about him going
Yeah.
into it, but
I mean, libertarians are nitpicky, so it's kind of like some
Yeah.
people claim him, some people don't.
yeah, but from what I've seen, I like him. I hope he doesn't, like we said, just be another one of those guys that talks a lot and then doesn't really do a whole lot. But that's kind of been the thing with politicians.
I like that the left hates him. We can start there.
That's always a positive.
It's always a decent sign.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always.
If
I'll take that back.
the left, what an
The.
interesting group of people.
Yeah.
If at the very least they're interesting.
We can stick with that adjective.
So, yeah. What else you got?
What else do I got? Any ideas?
Any other thing happened in 24? Recap. I mean, we're a half hour in, so we could stop if you want to.
We could probably cut it here, unless I think of something.
The faces.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I say the word?
I don't know what the,
The
word
phrase?
is, so go ahead.
The phrase?
Go ahead.
Truth is strength.
Oh, you want to cut it off?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Ready? Truth is strength.